am compelled by Schlock. I am compelled by Schlock. I am compelled
We are here to schlock the seven C's. What is up, everybody? I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and with me is Chris Anonymous. Chris, very important question for you. What is your favorite special effects driven movie of all time?
Man, that's tough. You know, I love Army of Darkness.
Oh, right here in the heart. Yeah,
but I mean, a lot of the movies we're going to talk about today, including this one, made that movie possible. So,
yes, indeed, I believe a lot of. Well, let me back up. Let's not spoil everything just yet. And speaking of spoilers, I've heard that this show, even though we do spoilers, is actually something really good to watch before you watch a movie, because we're really not just spoiling a movie. We're giving kind of a film analysis in some ways. Finalysis. So yeah, just a warning. We're gonna spoil some things. We're gonna spoil a lot of movies because we got to put everything in context. But yeah, be forewarned. Watch this before, watch it after, do whatever.
Both.
But the movie that we are going to spoil today is,
what is it?
The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Came out in 1973, so quite a while ago. This movie, so I'm not entirely sure what it costs to make. I've seen two figures. One is just under $1 million, $987,000+, which is pretty amazing. I've also, however, seen the figure $2 million, and I'm wondering if that's maybe adjusted for inflation. I don't know. I'd be pretty impressed if someone made a movie like this today for under $1 million.
Right.
But at the box office, it made about $11 million, so quite a good return. And I believe I saw a figure that said, as of 2016, with box office and rentals and syndication and things like that, it's made about $78 million. And I think a lot of that has to be from playing on Encore and TNT when we were kids. We were talking about this before the show, if we'd ever seen this before, and I think we both have pretty vague memories of this
I've
movie.
seen parts of it, but in what context, I don't know.
Yeah, I know that I've seen the part where they fight the head of the ship, the statue on the ship. Honestly, I think what happened is that it was playing on TNT a bunch, and I just saw it from commercial to commercial, because what my dad would do, you'd watch something until it's commercial and then flip the channel over to something else, and he would try to watch movies in two movies at once, watch till the commercial here, then find something to watch while the commercial is playing. And so you only just got about maybe 70% of any movie. That's why my memory's bad. What makes me an unreliable narrator. But so this movie, I think it's a pretty important movie. You brought up the Army of Darkness. Well, so that movie was heavily influenced by another movie called Jason and the Argonauts. And that was made by the same special effects person that worked on The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Ray Harryhausen. And he is a dynamo in the special effects industry. So I think kind of some big touchstone movies in special effects. I mean, one of them is definitely Star Wars, which came out, I think 4 years after this movie. And I can't help but think that like movies like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park, these big special effects movies could not exist without the inspiration from Ray Harryhausen, because I think all of the Peter Jacksons and Steven Spielberg's and George Lucas's they were watching Ray Harryhausen's work. So I mean, he was making stop motion a long time before this. I think he's mostly known for Jason and the Argonauts, and of course Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, are his big ones. And so people were watching that, and I think just I think their minds were just set alight with, you know, what is possible to do. Because we were kind of talking a little bit before, this is like the big adventure movie of its time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what Pirates of the Caribbean is today, right?
Right.
Just that fun action fantasy adventure story. So again, we might not even have those movies without movies like the Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Yeah.
So some interesting things in this movie. Apparently there was a scene cut out. I just think this is interesting. It's called Valley of the Snakes, where Ray Harryhausen made a bunch of, I guess, like claymation snakes and whatnot that they were supposed to fight their way through. But one of the producers was very afraid of snakes. And instead of being like, I'm very afraid of snakes, I don't want to do this, he said, we can't put this in because it will frighten pregnant women in the theater because of their notorious fear of snakes.
Oh,
specifically pregnant women.
Everything else
before pregnancy.
Yeah. And nothing else in this film would frighten a pregnant woman.
Right. Another interesting thing, the main bad guy, the evil sorcerer, Korra? Is that his name?
Yeah.
So he's speaking a lot of mumbo jumbo through this movie, and when my girlfriend and I, while we were watching it, we were trying to figure out what he was saying. Was he just like naming off Italian recipes or a Starbucks order or what? It turns out he was saying popular cereal catchphrases backwards. So he was saying cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. He reversed those.
Nice.
And said them backwards. So if anybody is worried about demons being conjured up from reciting the words of this movie, you will probably only conjure the Trix rabbit.
Which is probably scary enough.
Equally scary. Give me your Cocoa Puffs. I want Trix.
But Tricks are for kids.
So anyway, if you're watching this, no matter where you are, please like, comment, and subscribe, especially on YouTube. It really makes us feel good when we get a new subscriber. I definitely light up. Chris, he's a curmudgeon, so he doesn't care. But no, that's not true.
Is that a sea vegetable?
A curmudgeon?
Yeah.
A sea curmudgeon? I think so.
Yeah, it sounds like a cucumber of some ill repute. A cucumber of ill repute.
That is what a curmudgeon is.
That's
I think
a curmudgeon.
that's in the dictionary. So the way the show works is we talk about the good and the bad, what we like and didn't like, and then we talk about the schlock. And that's just kind of our catch-all. What is this movie about? What's going on? What's all the weird things in it? But first, Chris, tell us who's connected to this movie? Where did they come from? Where did they go?
In the web of schlock. Yeah. Okay. You already brought up Ray and his great films and his work as a special effects legend. So I'm going to bring up just a couple other people. Carol Monroe, very, very went on to do some cool schlock stuff. She was in Maniac, in Slaughter High. She was also one of the villains in a James Bond movie, The Spy Who Loved Me, with Jaws.
Okay.
So she got some schlock cred.
I love the Jaws 007s.
Yep. Well, this is one of them. She was in it. And then you mentioned the bad guy, Cora, played by Tom Baker. he went on to be the fourth Doctor Who and the longest running actor to play Doctor Who.
I
So
thought he was a Time Lord.
we've got a Bond villain. We've got Doctor Who. It's a fun cast. And then I'm going to bring up the screenwriter, Brian Clemens. Tons of schlocky stuff. Just sci-fi, horror, thriller, all sorts of cool stuff dating from decades before this all the way up into the 90s. He had story credit on Highlander 2.
Okay.
I'm like, that's awesome. The same dude who did the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. And then he also had a hand in creating one of my favorite shows as a kid. Most people have never heard of it, but now when I saw his name, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Father Dowling Mysteries. Did you ever watch those?
Never heard of her.
Him. Father Dowling, it was like if a Catholic priest were Sherlock Holmes in a weekly kind of Columbo type. And it was on like some like public access channel. I mean, it was awesome.
Well, you've piqued my interest.
Yeah, I remember watching those a lot as a child, and to realize that the same dude had his hands in there, I have to give him big ups for that. It's three great things. There's more, but I mean, do you need more than Father Dowling Mysteries, Highlander 2, and the Golden Voyage of Sinbad? That's it. That's all you need.
Dare I say you don't?
Yeah. So that's I mean, we could go on and on. Just tons of cool little bit parts and different things, but that's the bulk of it. Let's get into the movie.
Nice. Well, obviously, for my good, like I said, the visual effects are just I think amazing, right? We can look back on it and think that they look hokey or dated, but I mean, a lot of passion and time and effort and thought, mental energy, like went into creating these. And I think they're a little indulgent at times, like when we get the Centaur versus Griffin portion. That went on for quite a while and was very annoying in a way, that with the Centaur screaming the whole time. But man, you know, if you're going to put in the work to make these things, and it's going to be a special effects feast for the
that's
eyes.
what people were going to see, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you paid for the ticket.
So I thought it went on a little long, but yeah. If you buy the ticket, you got to take the ride. It's just a fun, straightforward adventure. It is an A to B movie. It's go here, get the thing, then go there and get the thing, and keep moving to the end, fight the bad guy, save the day, the end. It is like, you don't have to understand or know what's going on to know what's going on, right? Like just pretty straightforward, easy to follow. I enjoyed the crew. I didn't think
Really like the first mate.
Yeah. I don't know his name.
I don't either, but he was so nonchalant through the whole thing, and like looked like he was about to crack like a smile half the time, just like not out of character, but just like in character as this bemused kind of like, I love my job at sea.
Yeah, he's
crazy
just totally
stuff happens.
Sinbad's on his shit again. Like here we go.
Here we go. Yeah.
Oh, there's this 6-armed monster that's going to kill us. Well, another day at the floating office.
They pay me to do this. Best job ever.
But so I do have to pick out the drunk son though, who just like the father wants to get rid of him so bad that he's like willing to give away like his attractive slave, and he's like gonna pay him like 400 gold to take him. And he had a bit of a character arc. I liked him.
He actually he became a useful person.
Yeah. Now tell me if I'm wrong here. Does this dude not look like Bruno
Mars?
The whole thing,
the whole time I'm like, man,
don't believe me, just watch me.
Yeah. I was waiting for him to put his pinky finger in the air.
Well, and he comes out with this loot thing. So thinking, maybe. So I think if they do a remake,
someone should like deep fake and then rescore it with just Bruno Mars songs.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, and my last thing, I think is just really interesting. It's not so much alike, but it's just something that I think is really interesting. And it's the use of like Allah and Islam and just kind of religion in general. So like the kind of the last scene in the movie, they have a saying that they say through the entire thing. And they say, always trust in Allah, but tie up your camel, which sort of seems like the theme, right, of the movie, or at least it's the period at the end of the story,
Right.
And they're all laughing and they sail into the sunset. What I think is interesting is one,
Dude, you can see the first mate totally cracking up back
yeah,
there.
he loves it. He loves his life on this ship.
Man, yeah. We could
So-
all be like him.
So one, I think it's like an interesting vehicle to get like God and religion into a movie. Like so think of it this way: Allah. All Allah means is the God, like the God in Arabic. And so had they just said had these just been like English sailors, and they were saying God the entire time and say, trust God, but always lock your car. And if God wills it, if that's what God wants us to do, or praise God, I've become king. I feel like people would be kind of like, ugh, it's a little preachy. But by using this different name and this different culture, it seems like, okay, that's pretty acceptable. It doesn't feel preachy.
It feels appropriate to the characters in the story, which is saying something for that time and era.
Right. And that I think is maybe the most interesting thing to me, just sort of looking back at how Islam was portrayed in movies. Whereas now, like if you do something with Islam or Muslims, like you have to think of like cultural appropriation. You have to think of, okay, do we have to put like the terrorist question in here? Like they just have, there's just a lot of baggage with it now that the filmmakers feel like they need to address. Whereas prior to like a 9/11 world and maybe even a little bit before with like the Ayatollah and whatnot, Islam in movies was treated as kind of like this, mysterious, exotic religion, right? There wasn't the same type of baggage with it that there is now, and so you just see it portrayed in media a lot differently, and I think it's like actually like pretty refreshing to look at in a way. Talk about a little bit later the kind of the ethnicity of this movie, but should these guys have been of some sort of Arab descent? But Islam spreads very far and wide. There's a lot of Greek, Turkey, all the way into Spain, right? So I think it works on a lot of different levels, and so that was probably my favorite thing about the movie is just different and refreshing and interesting. My bad is really quick. The technology that the movie was created with is definitely dated. It felt like some things were hard to hear and therefore it's hard to get some of that story. And even though the movie moves along and does a lot of different things, it seems like kind of slow paced at some at certain times. But I think that's again like kind of a symptom of the era. So that's my good. That's my bad. What do you got for me, Chris?
Well, we'll go through real quick. Just the special effects, the stop motion, love it. The whole action adventure Saturday morning vibe that a lot of movies in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s had. This feels very Swiss Family Robinson. It feels there's just so many fun movies that just, I don't know, escapism isn't the right word, but just like almost pure entertainment.
Right.
The cool sets. I thought that they did a really good job with the sets. We have a picture of one. It really gets you into this world, which is the Arabian Nights and Sinbad and that whole
Mhm.
that whole bit of mythology is just really fun and interesting and
Yeah.
visually opulent, and they do a really good job of drawing you in with these really cool sets on top of the special effects.
This scene was definitely an info dump for sure. Like they went through a lot of points in
Yeah,
the story.
they had the bad guy listening, so they could just totally info dump. I'm not saying it's a good scene per se, but it is a cool set. And it's, if you got an info dump, that's not the worst way.
Yeah, make it interesting.
Right. I also liked the weakness of the villain. I liked that he wasn't a total badass in every single area. He was in the dark arts. He was in magic, right? But physically, he kept getting older and older. And by the end, we don't know if he's like, we don't want him to win, but also when he's like super old and just trying to get that bit of thing dropped in the fountain, we're also kind of rooting for him. Like, oh man, he's come it's so hard. He's done so far. And he's like, and like, you know, when Sinbad challenges him to a sword fight, he sidesteps the sword fight and uses magic to have to animate another being to do the sword fighting for him. So it's really interesting to see a character who is not 100% totally like unstoppable. And I think in some ways that makes him scarier and a better villain.
Well, and it gives him purpose for trying to complete the task that he's trying to complete, right? To get more power, because he doesn't have enough yet. And clearly, he's growing old. He's not strong.
The other thing is it makes the magic more story related as opposed to just he's using magic, because it's set up that that's what he has. If he's super strong and a great swordsman and super smart and a total super villain, then is he using magic just for the fun of it? And, you know, so if he could also sword fight or go do whatever. So it felt really cool to have him exploit that bit of power that he did have. And there was a desperation in it. So yeah, I really liked the villain because of that. That's it for good.
That's interesting.
For bad, dated, I agree. So I really like the sets and I really like the special effects. I thought some of the costumes and some of the makeup, not that good. They weren't awful, but compared to like the set design and the special effects, especially qual the time they were made, you know, trying to watch it through those eyes. Yeah, some of that wasn't good. And then, so you talked about how it was a straightforward story, you know, go get A, and then you have that, so you got to go to B and C. And I agree that the through line is classic storytelling, but the obstacles they encounter felt very and then to me.
And absolutely.
And I felt that there was too much of a melting pot of cultures and different mythologies without connecting them in any way except for, gosh, this would look cool if we also had this. I mean, we have different gods from different religions. We have we have Greek mythology. We have the Arabian Nights and all of that. We have a fountain in the middle of Stonehenge. I mean, none of it is, we have a centaur, we have a griffin. None of it is.
Yeah, very kitchen sink.
Very kitchen sink. And I'm okay with that if you were to connect it, but it doesn't feel connected. It just feels like, what's some cool thing we haven't seen yet? Throw it in.
You bring up a really good point. I would push back on it just a little bit. Like the Stonehenge and possibly even like the Greek mythology, that very kitchen sinky. However, with the Hindu mythology and the Buddhist mythology or symbolism at the very least, to me that signified, here's how far they're sailing, right? If we're starting off in, I don't know, the Arabian Sea, is that a place? I don't know my seven seas.
I get what you're saying. I wish they would have made that more apparent, because that is a cool idea to use different mythologies and cultures and histories in different locations to signify the length of their voyage. I do like that. But again, that didn't come across, and maybe it's in the movie and I just didn't pick up on it.
But then they had Stonehenge in like a Buddhist cave. So
yeah, exactly. So
then there's that.
That's it for the bad. There's just so much schlock. We're running a little behind, but I think we can go a little long.
Yeah, hit me up with some schlock.
Man, just everything.
This is right for it.
I mean, there's a centaur who fights a griffin, but if we bring up the ICU, I mean, she's got one eye clearly painted on her hand, but it's actually a tattoo, quote unquote. And then we see that same image behind the one-eyed centaur here.
But
and
did her eye hand, like, did that do anything to help her, or was that purely
that was a
to
mark,
get her thrown in the pit?
That was a mark on her body that she was destined to be thrown in the pit. Like, she has the mark of the one eye, throw her in the pit.
Yeah, that seems a little lame to me. It should have been like, I have this really super unique mark. I can like calm the beast because of it.
Yeah, and the other thing is,
Should have been
like,
a boon.
how convenient that they got her and then freed her, and they take her on this giant adventure, and it just so happens that they're going to the place that she has the.
Well, it's destiny. It's all the will of Allah. Like they are going.
Okay, so okay, all right,
yeah.
Yep.
I just think that was like kind of a lame piece of destiny, right? Like this, what's this mysterious mark I've never known? Oh, it's
like if it
because
opened some door or something,
pit.
that would have been a lot cooler.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the not like stop motion special effects, but just like the layering of images, like the visions in the sky in the beginning, it sets the tone for the movie, and it's such a schlocky, fun thing that it's like image within image within image, and like it sets up everything that you're gonna get, and everything. That's all you need to know is right there, because they also have that little stop motion gargoyle like creature.
Yeah, they just kind of just show us everything that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Again, that destiny that you're talking about that is set up from the get-go. What schlocky things would you like to discuss?
So one of the things it's hard for me to say schlock, because there is maybe a little bit of an implication that schlock is bad, but I just thought it was funny when he gets the slave girl onto the ship and she puts the dagger behind her back. I didn't get a picture of this because I didn't find anything that represented it really well, but I think maybe she's going to fight her way off the ship or something. I don't know. But he tells her, you are free. You are no one's slave. And he says something along the lines of like, no person can or should own another person. And I don't know. I thought it was funny. I was like, oh, how progressive of this movie. And
I like that it's like the school teacher who's like, okay, hand me the knife.
Yeah. And then he immediately like gives her an order.
Right. And then he comes back and it's like, please. And she's like, oh, is that what it means?
Yeah.
I can get used to this please stuff.
I just thought it was a funny exchange. Like it was cute. It was awkward. It was, I don't know. I thought it was funny.
There were lots of little comic bits in this whole film that were just, again, a lot of the movies of this era, this feels more 60s and 70s when I'm like thinking about movies, but like that was part of the action adventure, were these little comic moments. And now it feels like sometimes the comic moments almost take over the action film.
Yeah. Well, we'll think of movies today, right? Comedy movies don't do very well anymore, but that's because the big movies that we have today, they have a little bit of everything. Like they have action adventure, they have suspense and some horror elements. And they have a lot of comedy. All the Marvel movies, they're all funny, man.
Oh yeah. And some of them I would argue are more comedy than anything else. The last two Thor movies, super fun, actiony, adventure-y. But I would argue that is secondary to the comedy.
But I think that's really interesting that like what would maybe be kind of a schlocky feature of an older movie like Sinbad is like commonplace now. Like, well, we make this because this is what people want. You know, like
Right,
people
yeah,
people want
you
quippy.
see the prototype of what a blockbuster movie is now in some of these older films.
Yeah,
For better and
exactly.
worse. Yeah.
And my other like my biggest schlock part was the I don't know what you would call them, the native
Martians?
guys. Yeah, the Martians, the green men, because they're theoretically in India, right? Because they have some sort of Hinduistic type religion. They're worshiping Kali, and they had to paint these guys green because they are very clearly white people. And so for me, it kind of like called into question, like what's like the main ethnicity of this movie, and would this have been considered a diverse movie for its time? Probably not. I don't know. I it's just something that because of our modern era, I look for a lot more in movies now, and I think that this was just kind of a clear representation of here's the people that we had when we made this. We didn't really like think about, looking outside of our niche group to find actors. And so we just
that
got
were
a bunch
more
of white guys.
culturally representative of the cultures represented. Yeah.
Yeah. Slap some paint on them. It'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. So that, obviously you wouldn't do that today. Different era. It's interesting that they chose green as if they were just sidestepping the issue completely. Again,
right. It's such a weird color. Like I think they could have, they could have done a lot of different colors, and
they're mixing mythologies, they're mixing religions, they're mixing ethnicities, planets. Yeah. So I think going with Martian green was probably a safe bet at that time. And also it felt kind of unfamiliar, which I think was part of the appeal of these adventure movies, where you're
in a new place. It feels very Star Trek.
It feels very Star Trek.
Just make them green.
Make them green.
But that's all I really have for Schlock. I mean, I love this movie. I don't know if there is a lot going on in it, but it's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely a fun time.
I mean, the nautical figurehead comes to life and attacks, and they have to fight it. It's interesting that it's not a sentient being. Like, he didn't just use magic to bring it to life. Mm-hmm. He's controlling it like he's possessing it, or like it's a video game, or like it's a remote control.
Yeah.
It cuts back to him aging and becoming weaker as he's doing it, which is a really interesting take, because you think in a lot of them, it's just like, snap your fingers, now the thing's magically alive and you can walk off.
Well, how come he didn't do that with the Kali statue?
Well, I think he used different magic, because that's where he threw the yellow vial at her, mm-hmm. and it shattered, and that's when she came to life and he could command her. Whereas I don't know what magic he used for the figurehead.
Some sort of sympathetic magic.
Correct. But when she starts to come alive off oh man, that's such a cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when the swords come out, shing, 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 shing.
Yeah. There's awesome. so many great moments in this film. Yeah. It's very fun. Very fun.
The nautical figurehead is definitely an image stuck in my head from my childhood. Like I don't remember exactly when I saw this or what pieces I saw. That portion is definitely a standout moment of my TV watching childhood.
Someone should put that in a new movie, because that's just such a cool idea. Yeah, I think it's so wicked.
I bet it's in a new movie, and if it is, make sure you tell us below so that we can
watch it.
And heck, we'll watch anything.
Yeah, as we've proven time and time again.
So speaking of which, Chris, it is your turn to pick the upcoming movie. Well, what do you have for me?
We are going to watch Rockula.
Rockula?
Rockula.
Like a rock and roll Dracula?
Yeah, musical that takes place in an 80s high school with a 300-year-old Dracula.
That sounds amazing. And of course, it's free on Tubi. Is that correct?
Free on
All right.
Tubi.
We watch everything on Tubi so that you guys can watch it too, because we really want you to come and talk to us and join in the conversation. Speaking of Dracula, I almost forgot that Christopher Lee was up for the role of the main bad guy.
Really? Nice.
So,
That would have been interesting.
yeah, nice tidbit. Anyway, take it easy, guys. We will see you next week. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock. Peace. Peace.
I am